Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at some really fun battles in the Fossil Cup featuring Grass Knot Barbaracle. Barbaracle is a water and rock type Pokemon that typically runs the moveset of Fury Cutter, Cross Chop, and Stone Edge. But today we'll be running Barbaracle on the safe swap while using Grass Knot instead of Stone Edge, hoping to surprise some water types. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Grass Knot Barbaracle in action in the Fossil Cup. Hopping into the first match, leading Jellicent into the mirror. The Jellicent mirror match is always tricky, knowing when to bait, when to go for the nuke, and most importantly, when to commit a shield. I'm going to farm up one extra, go for the Shadow Ball, and lose CMP. This is a tough call. I will shield it, but I shield a Bubble Beam bait. You absolutely hate to see it. I'm going to fire back with the Shadow Ball, and my opponent does commit the shield. Now my opponent is ahead on energy, which is not good at all. They're going to farm up and fire off a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball would easily KO from here, so I will respect it with a shield. And then, to try and get back some energy, I am going to be going for the Bubble Beam bait here, hoping to get the shield, but they call it. Things going from bad to worse. I'm going to switch into Registeel and catch a Shadow Ball, so I have saved a Shadow Ball for later. We tank that, and then they're going to bring in Berserker. Berserker will be able to outpace me here, but they overfarm, and that allows me to reach a Focus Blast, which is very nice. Focus Blast does get the shield. Berserker farming up. They're going to go for the close combat, but they are not quite at the back-to-back, and that is a big mistake because I have a Shadow Ball loaded. So I can bring in the Jellicent, fire off the Shadow Ball, and take out Berserker. Down goes Berserker. We know they still have that Jellicent left alive in the back. Back in comes the Jellicent. I'm going to farm up because I know I lose CMP and catch onto Barbaracle. Barbaracle should be able to tank this damage, no problem. We'll have to see what they have in the back. And they have a Fire Fang Mawile, and this is a great spot to be in. I'm going to be able to spam out these cross chops. I'm always going to overfarm slightly, just so they're never quite sure when I get to a cross chop. Because they should be able to reach a power-up punch, but I'm hoping they get greedy and overfarm and allow me to reach a third. Barbaracle, able to reach a third. The trick pays off, and that will be taking out Mawile. We know they still have that Jellicent left in the back. Jellicent needs to go for the farm down. Barbaracle able to reach the Grass Knot. Grass Knot is going to be taking care of the Jellicent, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Jellicent into Pelipper. Pretty neutral lead across the board. I do have two better responses in the back, but I am going to stay in here to start to get some chip damage with the Shadow Ball before I do eventually switch out. I am going to be firing off the Shadow Ball, and it is going to do some nice damage onto Pelipper. I'm going to farm up, switch, not able to catch the Hurricane, but in comes Swampert. This is exactly what I was hoping to see. Barbaracle charging up. Do they respect the damage? They do not, and down goes Swampert. Opponent waiting their timer, and back in comes Pelipper. Pelipper does have a lot of energy loaded, but Barbaracle has done its job, so I'm more than fine with letting it get taken out. Pelipper farming up, and they're going to fire off the Weather Ball as I reach the cross chop. Weather Ball is going to be enough to KO, and now I can bring in Registeel to commit to the farm down. Registeel doesn't have to shield a thing here, and I'm going to get a nice energy lead. Pelipper lands that Weather Ball, and in the back they have Jellicent, so this game is over. I'm going to be able to fire off the Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon is going to do massive damage, so they are going to need to commit the shield. I bring in my own Jellicent, and from here, I don't have to shield a thing. I'm in a very comfortable spot. They go for a Bubble Beam bait, we call it, and if the game wasn't over already, now it definitely is. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Hopping into the next match, leading Jellicent into another Pelipper. Same game plan as last time. I'm going to stay in here, fire off a Shadow Ball to get some nice chip damage, and then this time, hopefully successfully catch a Hurricane onto my Barbaracle. Shadow Ball does get shielded. Jellicent farming up the switch, and they throw. Was my opponent able to react fast enough? They were not, and we catch the Hurricane. Opponent is going to respond with Lucario. Lucario will be able to farm me down, but not before I reach a Cross Chop. Cross Chop is going to do massive damage onto the Lucario, and should hopefully put that into Hex farm down range for the Jellicent. Back in comes the Jellicent. I am going to have to shield up to respect the potential Shadow Ball, as that would do massive super effective damage. We do shield the Shadow Ball, and now we leave with a ton of energy to threaten that Pelipper if they decide to bring it back in. Opponent chooses to bring in their third, which is Quagsire, and I am very happy happy that they did, because this is the exact alignment that I need. And with this big of an energy lead, I'm just going to be able to spam out Shadow Ball after Shadow Ball against this Quagsire. Shadow Ball number 2 gets the shield. Quagsire is going to be able to outpace me here, but I can very safely shield up, fire off a third Shadow Ball, and then this game is over because I have Registeel in the back waiting for that Pelipper. Shadow Ball takes down Quagsire, in comes Pelipper, and in comes the Registeel, and this game is over. It does not matter what they throw. They go for the Hurricane, recognizing it's over, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Jellicent into another mirror match. Like last time, I'm going to stay in and try and play it out, but hopefully I'll make fewer wrong decisions than last time. They're going to fire off the move as soon as they get there. I will respect it, and it ends up being the Shadow Ball that is big. I'm going to fire off a Bubble Beam bait, hoping to try and get a shield back. Bubble Beam does get the shield, that's huge. Opponent safe switches into Berserker, and I don't have a great response to this. I'm going to fire off the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is going to land and do big damage, and then in comes Barbaracle, which is able to reach the Cross Chop. Cross Chop will easily KO from this range, and they let Berserker go. Opponent not committing to the Berserker, and they lose a decent amount of energy. Back in comes Jellicent, but the question is, do they know about Grass Knot? We should be able to survive a Shadow Ball from here, and then hopefully we can give this Jellicent a nasty surprise. Barbaracle charging up the Grass Knot. It connects, taking down the Jellicent, and in the back is Lucario. So we should be in a very good spot to close out this match, because Jellicent does quite well here. This is enough for a Shadow Ball. I will respect it, and it is the Shadow Ball that's big. Now I'm going to return the favor, firing off a Shadow Ball of my own. Shadow Ball takes down Lucario, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Jellicent into Escavalier, a dominant lead. Opponent save switches into Jellicent, and we have the perfect response in Registeel. So far, everything going about as well as it could possibly go. Jellicent is going to fire off a Shadow Ball. We shrug off that damage, and we're going to fire back with the Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon is almost going to one-shot the Jellicent if it lands, and from here, I can very safely lock on Farm Down. They're going to be able to reach another Shadow Ball, but thanks to the debuff, I don't have to shield this. That lands. I'm going to let them get some extra hexes, so that way their Escab gets less farm, but I still leave with basically a Focus Blast loaded. So when they bring back in the Escab, I can either deal massive damage or grab a shield advantage. Back in comes Escab, Focus Blast, able to land, and gets them very low. I bring in Jellicent in the back, they have Lantern, and this is incredibly bad, because all I have left are water types. I'm going to build up to the Grass Knot and go for the Cross Chop bait. I'm hoping that since Lantern is basically their win con at this point, I can safely double bait, because they kind of have to protect it in this situation. They go for the Thunderbolt, I will of course shield it up. I am going to slightly overfarm and then go for the Cross Chop bait, really needing to grab the second shield, and we do. That's massive. Barbaracle able to reach the Grass Knot, and this should be doing big damage onto the Lantern. Grass Knot almost takes out the Lantern, and from here, I think I can honestly just let this go. I should be able to Hex down with the Jellicent. Back in comes Jellicent. Opponent brings in Escav, and I should be able to Hex down the Escav as well. Escav is not going to be able to one-shot with a move here, so I'm going to let that through. They go for the Mega Horn. Back in comes Lantern, but we have the Shadow Ball loaded. Shadow Ball taking down the Lantern, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Jellicent into Shadow Mawile, an incredibly good lead. Opponent is going to immediately save switch into a Razor Leaf Ludicolo, and I'm going to respond with Registeel. Even when resisted, Razor Leaf does add up, so I'm going to fire off a Zap Cannon to lower their attack. From there, I'm going to try and commit to a very aggressive farm down. I should be able to tank 2 Leaf Storms here and commit to the farm down and leave with 100 energy. So I'm not going to shield a thing here, but they're running Hydro Pump, and suddenly I realize I have made a mistake, because after landing the Hydro Pump, Ludicolo can shield the Focus Blast, Razor Leaf down, and take switch advantage. So a big mistake on my part. I'm going to bring in Jellicent to Hex down, and in the back, they have Ferrothorn. While I only have water types left, Barbaracle can put up a nice fight against Ferrothorn. Shadow Ball lands, and in comes Barbaracle, and the opponent is going to bring in Shadow Mawile, but this is still a pretty bad matchup for Shadow Mawile, because Barbaracle has a ton of play here. We are going to be double resisting the Fire Fangs, and even after buffing it with a Power-Up Punch, it's still not going to be doing any meaningful damage, whereas I'm able to spam out Cross Chop after Cross Chop. I'm firing off Cross Chop number 2, and after this, I'm actually going to look to Fury Cutter down here, because if I can Fury Cutter down, I should be able to leave with a massive amount of energy. I am going to commit the shield here as a Power-Up Punch would be enough to KO, but if I can leave with a ton of energy, which I'm able to do, I'm going to be able to take out the Ferrothorn. Back in comes Ferrothorn, but I almost have 3 Cross Chops loaded. I get the shield, and I farm up to 2 more. This first Cross Chop is going to be getting the Ferrothorn quite low, and this second Cross Chop is going to be the kill shot. Barbaracle taking down Ferrothorn, and that is a good game. Hopping into the next match, leading Jellicent into Registeel, a pretty bad lead. I'm going to immediately save switch into Barbaracle and hope that my opponent switches out into a water type. I keep farming up, but they're staying in and going to be firing off a Focus Blast. I do need to shield this. That would do massive super effective damage. They're going to switch into Lucario, and I have a ton of energy loaded. Cross Chop gets the shield from Lucario. I'm farming up, going for a second, and it ends up being a CMP tie on the Power-Up Punch. Power-Up Punch, barely not enough to KO, and I'm able to get off this second Cross Chop. This will do some nice damage onto Lucario, but they end up committing the second shield. They do have a 1 counter energy lead, which is a little unfortunate because they are barely going to be able to outpace Jellicent to the Shadow Ball, and I do need to respect this since they are buffed up. I will be able to overfarm slightly here. I definitely should have overfarmed more, but I decided to try and go for an undercharge, but not enough. They bring in a Registeel, and I bring in my own. It's going to be a race. We're able to reach the Focus Blast, but again, we end up losing CMP. Focus Blast does big damage, and I'm going to fire back with my own. This is not going to be enough to KO their Registeel, but it is going to get them very, very low. I'm just going to keep farming. They're going to be forced to throw here. I go for the Focus Blast, and again, I do lose CMP. This is going to be taking me out, and then we'll have to see what my opponent has in the back. They have Pelipper in the back, and this is honestly not great. I do need 2 moves to KO, so I am going to go for the Bubble Beam right off the bat, so hopefully I'm going to be able to live the Hurricane. They are going to be able to reach the Hurricane. The question is, am I going to be able to survive it? Hurricane, barely not enough to KO, and I'm going to fire back with the Shadow Ball. Is this going to be enough to KO the Pelipper? Shadow Ball barely does not. Pelipper able to wing attack down, and I lose a close game. Hopping into the final match, sending Jellicent into Escavalier, a fantastic lead. Opponent save switches into their own Jellicent, and again, we have a fabulous response in Registeel. We've seen this team before, and it worked out pretty well for us the first time. They go for the Shadow Ball, and I'm going to farm up to 100 energy and then fire off the Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon doesn't quite one-shot here, but it gets really close. But my opponent actually decides to commit the shield. So my opponent looks like they're trying to make a play for switch advantage, and I do not want to let that happen. So if they shield, I am more than willing to shield back, and then I'm going to be firing off the Zap Cannon. Zap Cannon actually gets the last shield as well. My opponent doing everything they can to try and flip switch here, but I am not going to let that happen. I am going to shield up their move, but they go for a Bubble Beam bait. So now I am debuffed, and this is a little scary because this Zap Cannon, now that it's debuffed, I don't believe is going to be enough to KO. It gets them very close. They're debuffed. Is this Shadow Ball going to be enough to KO? Moment of truth. It is not. Registeel able to lock on down, and we keep switch advantage. That is massive. Now I can keep my Jellicent on that Escav. Escav farming up and firing off a move. At this point, nothing can one-shot me. They go for the drill run. That's totally fine. In the back, they have Lantern, and this is bad. Lantern is going to be able to reach the Thunderbolts. Can Barbaracle tank here? Thunderbolt, massive damage. Barbaracle able to get to the Grass Knot on very low HP. This is going to do massive chip damage onto the Lantern. Back in comes Jellicent, and I am going to overfarm and then go for the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball will be enough to KO here, and then hopefully I should be able to outpace Escav as well. Back in comes Escav, and I'm able to reach the Shadow Ball. This will barely not be enough to KO, but I don't believe they are at a move. Jellicent able to Hex down, and that is a good game. All in all, I had a ton of fun using Grass Knot on Barbaracle. It's definitely more of an off-meta pick, but the fact that I was able to surprise some water types, and especially one-shotting that Swampert, was a really fun experience. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you, as always, to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.